You're listening to Beyond Wellness Radio, bringing you the cutting edge in health, biohacking, and sports performance. Stay up to date and listen anywhere and anytime on your computer, tablet, or smartphone by subscribing on iTunes. Catch your host, Dr. Justin Marchegiani, as he answers your burning health questions as well as interviews from world-renowned guest experts. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.
Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani. Welcome to Beyond Wellness Radio. Feel free and head over to beyondwellnessradio.com where you can access our full podcast transcriptions. While you're there, you can also sign up for our thyroid and female hormone video series. This series goes into the root cause of why your hormones are out of balance. While you're there, you can also schedule a functional medicine consult with Dr. Justin, myself, where we'll dig deeper into the root cause of your health challenges. Feel free and think of sharing this podcast with at least one person. This podcast grows by people sharing it. Sharing is caring. If you can think of one person that can benefit from this information, please feel free and share it. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you subscribe on iTunes. You can also click below the video or podcast where you'll see the iTunes review button and leave us a review. You can also sign up for the newsletter at beyondwellnessradio.com where you'll get updates before anyone else. Thank you so much and enjoy the show. Hey there, it's Dr. J. Welcome back to Beyond Wellness Radio. Today we got a great guest, Elise Carr from Down Under, right? Over in Australia?
That is right, Dr. J. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
I love it. I love how with technology we're so close here. This is great.
It is, isn't it? We've got to be grateful for that.
Very cool. And I'll just drop your site for anyone interested at kind of checking your info out as the interview goes. www.stellamuse.com. So really interesting stuff on there, really interesting information. And we're going to just kind of go over a couple of the few key things that we talked about in our pre-interview. So I'm really excited to dig in.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, absolutely. Stellar Muse is a great website and plenty of free videos and info for people to be having a look at, after we have a chat as well.
Very cool. Well, tell me a little bit about yourself, Elise. How did you get into the health field? I know you do a lot of coaching with clients and patients, so to speak. What are some of the big issues that your patients that you see every day are dealing with? And how did you get into this field?
Yeah, great questions. I was definitely brought up in a very holistic way. So health and wellness and well-being and having a really strong connection to looking after yourself and the way you live your life has been a part of my life since I can remember. So that's probably a gift from my upbringing right there. But it was also in understanding that I had a choice as well. And when I didn't make great choices, not that I was ever, to be honest, ever went into the drugs, rock and roll kind of partying phase. Didn't go there. But I had a really strong, view of that world because I came from the modeling industry. So I saw what it could be like when you made choices for yourself that weren't really honoring your body temple, your life, anything to make you feel stronger, healthier, really actually connected to yourself and the earth and all of the above. So that was great in that sense. So when I say how I got into this, I came from a very different background. I actually originally studied journalism, public relations. I was working in those fields whilst modeling internationally and doing freelance journalism. It was really being a part of this world whilst wanting to live a very holistic lifestyle that I found these weren't marrying up. It wasn't really in sync and I wasn't able to be the person that I really wanted to be and serve the way I wanted to serve. So I eventually, through different life circumstances, merged into going back and studying my master's in communications and cultural politics and women's studies. And that was the catalyst for me to then pull back from the whole journalism PR world and then instead go into studying coaching and get my Reiki masters and go and study more esoteric work and healing work, and from there go and expand and learn and become certified as a Tantra practitioner and kind of gather this interesting eclectic bag of tools to then create Stellar Muse and offer this as an entire holistic, yes, but also an empowering platform and space to be able to serve people in the way that I feel I'm here to serve. So it's kind of like a calling, like many of us receive in different ways. It's not that I ever expected I'd be doing this. I thought I'd probably be a psychologist or a lawyer, but those shoes didn't fit. So
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate to be where I am now, I feel, and having created Stellar Muse and get to offer people a service that I feel can enrich their lives and, yes, connect them to a space of absolutely wellness and holistic lifestyle as much as it is empowering who they are and why they're here.
So it's really interesting that you were a model first and then you kind of transition over to the health field. Looking back, how difficult was it, or maybe you didn't even have that awareness back when you were modeling, to
Yeah.
practice a healthy lifestyle, meaning eating a nutrient-rich, nutrient-dense diet, not having to worry about counting every calorie, and also not having to worry about getting excessive movement to burn those calories up. What was that like for you? What was the pressures like?
Sure. Well, I guess I'm in my early 30s now, and I started modeling at the age of 7. And that was by
Wow.
choice. I was never pushed into it. I had a very supportive mum that said, "What would you like to do?" Like as an after school activity. And she listed many things. Karate was one of those, or taekwondo, and modeling was in the mix. So I chose this.
Right.
I always chose this. And to be honest, I still am in the modeling world now. I just choose very different jobs to accept and weave it in with my work. So as I mentioned, holistic life, eating nourishing foods, knowing I need sleep, not choosing to take drugs, not choosing to drink alcohol, all those things were something that were already ingrained in me. So when I was going into my teens and early 20s and started working internationally, I already had a very strong ethos and a pretty strong belief in self. And this was tested time and time again, mind you. But what I found, and what was one of my crossroads for me, is that it wasn't necessarily the wellness in the sense of exercise. I was very dedicated to exercise. I looked after my body temple in that regard. Food wise, I did the best with my capacity at the time. We can always improve. There's always room for trying different things. Really, when I can narrow in, I think what I was missing was good fats, to be honest, because the fat thing was like, oh, you can't have fat, but now I'm like, oh my gosh, give me the organic olive oil, give me the avocados, give me the nuts. So there was a misconception. So there was probably a lack of awareness there. But other than that, for me, living in that world, what I was actually missing was probably vitamin L, which was love.
Yeah.
When you're living that lifestyle away from your family and friends and my beloved at the time, my partner, that was what was suffering. My soul was being undernourished. Even my emotional intelligence and my intellect was hungry for something else. So that's why I say when we look at holistic health, it is the whole spectrum. And while I may have been eating to the best of my ability and looking after myself and not eating things that were going to be the detriment of my health and exercising very well and doing my best to sleep, how much you can when you're working crazy hours. And that being a doctor, crazy hours too.
Yeah.
But it was those other elements, the vitamin L, as I mentioned, and those other connections that made me actually quite unwell. And I came back from one of my international stints with a cyst on my ovary that ruptured, and my heart actually flatlined 4 times. So, but interestingly enough, the cardiologist says you're disgustingly healthy because every time my heart started again on its own. It was just the toxins from that cyst that went through my body that caused me to kind of have mini kind of shutdowns while it could do its best to help itself. And when I look back and apparently my insides, all my beautiful organs are textbook perfect. So the irony was like, if I'm actually healthy, quote unquote, what was my body shutting down for? And I can't say anything else. No other doctor. And I spent years seeing many specialists, like the top specialists in all these different fields, who could not give me any other answer. So I had to realize I had to take the power back myself. And I realized that really at the end of the day, I was missing soul, spirit, love, heart, all those kind of things. We cannot function without it. We can't. So I had to change my life in a big way and start nourishing those sides of me at the same time as, yes, absolutely still enriching my food choices and my exercise is still a massive part of my life, but you cannot discount the other factors.
So interesting you mentioned about the fat part. I think that's something a lot of people intuitively say, well, the fat you eat's the fat you wear, but we kind of know fat's really important for our cells and the lipid bilayers and our hormones and our brain health and our neurology. And just kind of looking at what your friends were doing in that industry, knowing what you know now, what kind of pressure was there? What was everyone else doing from a lifestyle perspective? Were you living a healthier lifestyle than most and others were kind of off? What was your perspective?
For me, I guess my perspective was that I was living a different lifestyle. It was just different choices. And we all have our own paths. And some people wanted to live in the now and the moment, and it was just the next quick fix. However that looked, that might be buying the latest outfit. And let's be real here. Many people are sucked into consumerism, whether in the modeling industry or not. So there was that side of things. There was I want to, party. So there was the drugs and there was the drinking. There was I haven't had a meal today, so I'm just going to grab fast food, or I'm not going to eat. I'm going to have coffee. There are all these different choices, which, yes, we know are common in an industry like modeling or dancing or whatever it is, but this can happen in any walk of life. So, yeah, I saw this. I also saw others who are addicted to the gym. We see this in every walk of life as well.
Yeah.
I never even considered counting calories. If someone said how many calories are in, raw vegan chocolate, my favorite vice, or a stick of carrot, I would have no clue. It was never something that came into my mind. I did, weigh myself at that stage, and I had an expectation of where I wanted to sit, which felt healthy for me. But I never felt under extreme scrutiny or pressure to have to, in that moment, lose 2 kilos or something absurd like that. And I would never capitulate to that. I had a very, very strong sense of self, which, as I said, got tested over and over again, but I still didn't want to be something I wasn't. Even though you're pressured, I didn't let that overtake me, I don't feel.
So after you developed the health challenge, the health scare with the ovarian cyst, and you had the flatlining, what happened next? How did you overcome that health challenge?
Well, I had to have a bit of time off. I wasn't able to drive a car, let alone walk properly or wash my own hair. Like, my body was in serious just exhaustion. So I was back in Australia at this time, and I wasn't able to do hardly anything. My relationship broke down. I wasn't, being a journalist. I wasn't being a model. All these facets of me, what I thought were me, were taken away. And so I was really left with what I really am. Nothing that you can fix onto. You are not your title. You are not your job. You are not what you have. We need to understand this. And this was my big wake up. It was a massive, massive aha moment for me. And it was in that time that I then spoke to my auntie who lives in the UK. And because this is before social media, the way I used to communicate with my family when I was away was writing epic emails. And I'd be sharing what's going on with this show and this experience and where I'm at and what it's like living in Asia at the time. And she said, why don't you take these emails and write a fab book, as she termed it. Yeah. And I was like, I never considered doing that. And that was me shifting my path from then. Instead of writing articles, I started writing a book. And now 10 years later, this book is in discussion with another agent to get it published. It's been a bit of a rocky road to find the right fit. But
is there a name for it yet?
Yes, it's called Runway, and there's a page on my book you can sign up to hear about the publishing when that gets finalized. And now I'm writing my second book on women's sexuality called Yoni Power. And it just shifted my life. And it was from there that I then chose to go back and do my master's and follow on with all my other training and certification and studies and life experience. It changed my life. And I didn't choose then to want to model full time ever again. Because as much as I loved being part of that world, I wasn't of that world.
Yeah.
And I had to be real with that. I had to be real. And I knew if I, went, and I did it. I moved to Paris. I went there, but I didn't push to try and get on the runways. I did work during Fashion Week over there, but it wasn't enough. And so I found an editor and got my book on the road, and I was painting and I was writing more, and I was just immersing in this place I always wanted to be, but I didn't pound the pavement and storm around forcing this career, I suppose, that did not resonate with my heart and soul, unfortunately. As much as, there's beautiful elements to the industry, on its own, it wasn't enough for me.
Got it. So you've taken all your experiences as a model, and then kind of the transformation with your health challenges, and then you've incorporated a lot with Tantra and various female sexuality, and you're incorporating that with the clients you're working with today. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
So how does that look? If I'm someone coming in, who's the average person or average patient or client you're working with, and what are their issues?
No one's average. I definitely have, like I'm sure you do, there's a massive mixed bag of tricks. We're all very individual, although, yes, you're right, there are many similarities. I work mainly with women, but I have more and more men, and I have more and more couples as well that I work with. And this is from the empowerment coaching, so looking at that whole holistic perspective, and then weaving in elements of Tantra to get a strong connection with your sacred sexual and sacred spiritual selves, essentially to raise your consciousness, have a deeper connection with who you are, deeper connection, intimacy with your beloved, deeper connection with all that is. So there's those kind of side, elements. And then also more of my healing work is as a Reiki master doing more energetic and esoteric work. So there's that kind of thing as well. But I can weave all of that into the coaching. And mainly the people that come to me are at a crossroads. And this crossroads is often that they are now at a point in their life where they realize they don't choose to live like this anymore. And whether that is changing their profession, from being in, a very demanding corporate job and leading that lifestyle where they are lacking substance, kind of like what I experienced, but the other way around. But that disconnection from soul, that disconnection from spirit, that disconnection from their purpose and wanting to transition into a service role that they really deeply connect with. There's that side of things. There's others where it's the relationship side of things where they're feeling a disconnect from themselves. They disconnect from their sexual power. They disconnect from their body. They disconnect from their heart. And then whether they're in a relationship or not, they usually are feeling that disconnect with their partner if they are in a relationship.
So looking at a lot,
they're kind of
go ahead.
Just going to say, they're, in answer to your question, they're kind of, common streams, I guess, that connect many of the clients that I work with.
So I'm just trying to get a good visualization because we do similar things with, the coaching side, right? You're getting people's diet and lifestyle and kind of core fundamental things kind of dialed in with what you're eating, sleeping, movement, hydration, those kind of things. And then you're building on top. You're putting a lot of focus on the sexuality aspect, which is something I don't really touch upon too much outside of, making sure relationships are relatively healthy or referring out for good support. But you do a lot with the Tantra part of it, which a lot of people listening probably know that to be something about sexual positions and such. Can you go more into what that is? And then how does that work? Are you giving people a prescription for certain things to do at night? How does that look?
Sure. Well, just to put up there first and foremost, all the time I with my patients is fully clothed. There's no genital touch. There can be misconstrued or misunderstanding of that.
Got it. Okay.
It's in a very safe space. I have a personal practice as well. So it's really fundamentally about building a connection with yourself. And then if you're in a relationship or want to create that with a future partner, building that with your partner, a lot of this resides in getting rid of trauma. We carry an incredible amount of trauma within ourselves. And like you're probably aware, everything is energy. We know this from a science base. We have memories in our mind, but we also have muscle memory. Right? Like, let's say we tear a muscle. That muscle is going to remember that experience, right? Even though it heals. So we also have the memory. I work on an energetic level. So we're going to get a little bit metaphysical here, but instead of just the physical, instead of even just the emotional, we're looking at the energetic side of things and realizing that you may have had a traumatic experience when you're a young man or someone's a young woman, and they have held on to that. And we hold on to that in different parts of our bodies. And I work with different energy centers. Some people know the term chakra.
Yeah.
They're just energy centers in the body. We have 7 of them. Exactly right, an energy wheel. We have 7 of them internally. And they connect to different elements of us. One of the biggest things I see is many people holding a lot of trauma in their second energy wheel, and this connects to the sex organs. So this trauma often connects to sex and sexuality. It also connects to money, power, and creativity. So if you're not getting flow in those areas, there may likely be a trauma that you haven't dealt with, released, worked through, confronted, forgiven, and got your power back to get yourself in the present. We live so often in the past and so often in the future that we're not really empowered in the present moment. So while this may seem like a very long path, to get to your true potential, to empower you, for you to connect with your sexual energy, for you to be able to express yourself and feel into your sensual nature as an individual, let alone in a couple, we need to clear that trauma. So I do a lot of work, excavating these spaces and clearing them so that we can start rebalancing where we're at in the here and now. And a lot of that, to be honest, works with forgiveness. Because as humans, it does not come naturally to forgive. We love to hold on to things like a bag of hot coals. And the reality is we're doing ourselves an injustice. We're not helping ourselves because that person who, abused you, neglected you, abandoned you, whatever it was, and I am not saying that horrible things don't happen and that, these are being excused, not by any means, but I'm talking here on an energetic level. I'm talking here like it's a mystical act to be able to forgive their soul so that you can be released. You're not necessarily going to have to forget that happened, and you don't want to forget because it means then you will learn in future not to make those same choices perhaps and not to be in that same position perhaps. But we need to understand that we have the power, you have the power, I have the power to make those choices for our own lives, to change where we're at. And this is about the empowerment work that I do that weaves into the Tantra, because we give a lot of our power away. We give a lot of our sexual power away. We say yes, we want to say no. We've got to strengthen our boundaries. So while Tantra is, yes, sexuality and spirituality, there's a lot of foundational work there that covers our entire life. And this is why, to me, Tantra is a lifestyle. We're weaving together that sacred, sexual, and spiritual to awaken our consciousness. And by awakening our consciousness, we're making wiser choices.
So
we're
when you
empowering
look at
ourselves.
Right. So when you look at these clients, they're coming in, whatever type of health issues you have, whether it's on the health side, whether it's their past trauma, you're looking at that. And from there, you're kind of creating a prescription on the Tantra side of specific positions to help kind of reawaken these various chakras. Is that what I'm hearing?
I can do chakra rebalancing. Absolutely. That's part
Yeah.
of it. It's very much case sensitive. Often I will say, mainly for women, some men, if they're open to it, to do a guided chakra regression.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a semi version of hypnosis of sorts, but you have to be really active in the mind while your body is calm. So if there are any yogis listening, it's kind of like yoga nidra. It's like
Yeah.
you're in a beautiful, deep relaxation, but your mind is switched on and can do the work while your body is totally chilled out, loving it. This kind of work is purely guided by my voice. So I will guide them back into their lower energy wheels to essentially bring up, confront whatever's been housed there. And yeah, that's in the form of memories. It's not in the sense essential to relive it, to just purely bring up the past. That's not the point. The point is that it's there. You're holding on to it. It is not serving you. We need to confront it. You need to get your power back, and you need to forgive that person, that experience, whatever it is, to disconnect, detach from that, let it go, move on, so we can clear that out and move up and move you into the present. So that's one element. And that's obviously my healing modality, but that is one simple practice that I can do with, and I do with clients all around the world via Skype, to then have them in a clearer space to be able to do, let's say, the tantric work. And, a prescription as such, learning how to breathe is one of the foundational techniques that I will teach someone on the tantric path, because we don't breathe properly. We shallow breathe all the time. And breath is one of the most important key parts to not only our survival, but then, yes, our sexual empowerment. You can change your whole sexual experience when you start working with breath, which sounds crazy, but once you learn it, it will change how you approach that. And I've got free videos that I can share with you, Dr. J, if you want to share them with your listeners as well, to get them on that track if they're curious.
That'd be great. Yeah, I see a lot of people that are in that sympathetic fight or flight nervous system state, right? Kind of the adrenals are being whipped, so to speak. They're really breathing from their chest, which, really actually further puts them into that sympathetic adrenal state, because if they breathe from their chest, right, they're activating a lot of these neck muscles, which puts them into this forward head posture, which then actually decreases the airflow. So then they have less oxygen going in, and, less airflow going to the nose, and the nasal sinus is what actually activates the parasympathetic through breathing. So instead of this deep belly breath where they're moving their belly as they breathe, they're breathing from their neck, they're breathing from their chest, and they're activating that fight or flight nervous system. Are you finding something similar with your clients?
Yes. And obviously, that may seem extreme for some people because they don't realize how interconnected we are. The human body is just phenomenal. So I'm so pleased you explained it like that. It's really important to have a good understanding of the effect of not breathing correctly. And to get an understanding of what breathing correctly looks like, watch a baby breathe, or watch, your pet, like a cat or a dog, and see that full belly expansion, and then the collapse of the belly as the belly button draws back towards the spine. This is what we're talking about here. And that's the way, we slow down, the fight or flight. We slow down the parasympathetic nervous system that's normally on edge. And it's that, that heart kind of palpitation almost, that kind of flighty energy that is literally sucking our power away. Right. So it's the way we choose to breathe on one simple thing. If you don't take anything else from this conversation we're having for those lovely listeners, it's looking at how you're breathing right now in this very moment. Whether you're driving in the car, you can do it. Whether you're walking with, podcasts going around the streets, anywhere, you can actually slow down. And I encourage clients to do this first thing in the morning, in the morning when they're laying in bed, even put one hand on the belly and one hand on the heart, and have this connection. Have this connection with yourself, and then to do it throughout the day whenever they feel a bit anxious or nervous or angry, overwhelmed, whatever it is. And then last thing at night, bring yourself back to this point also helps with a reconnection to yourself. And that is so important because we are so disconnected, even though like we are talking across the world right now, we're so connected technologically, but we're so disconnected emotionally, spiritually, energetically. And this is what's so important. This is what we're missing in this day and age. And there's no wonder drug. There's no band-aid. There's no, remedy for that. We really need to just own it and understand that, what, the power's with me. I need to make some more conscious choices. So let's start with my breath.
I think that's great. And with patients, you kind of alluded to it, one hand on the heart, one hand on the belly. And what I tell my patients is very simple. The hand that's on the belly is the one that should be moving. The one over the heart really shouldn't be moving much. It should be primarily coming from that bottom hand on the belly, which really tells me that you're breathing from the diaphragm and you're having those really good, big diaphragmatic breaths into the nose, out through the nose, or into the nose, out through the mouth to really get the parasympathetics going. And I also recommend doing that to like one of the M waves. Familiar with the Heart Math Institute? They have like the M wave that kind of helps get you into coherence, which is looking at heart rate variability, and it's timing and synchronizing the breath in and out to get you into that state of coherence where the brain and the heart are neurologically kind of communicating at its peak.
Yeah. And the interesting thing, I'm not sure if you come from this school of thought, but I certainly believe that while we've obviously got our normal brain, the heart and also like the digestive system, like, that lower hand where it's going to be, they're also kind of like main brains as well. So we want those three kind of brains of sorts to be functioning and talking and in harmony together.
Yeah.
To me, that's so important. And while that hand on your heart may not be moving, and we definitely don't want it to be moving as much as that belly hand, we want you to be able to even connect with your heartbeat. Start to feel that. Start to slow down enough to be present enough to just relax into the moment and know that you are doing something wonderful by just being. This is something that I do a lot of work with is the doing and the being. And I break this up into like the masculine doing and the feminine being, because we do a lot of energy work, as I've already touched on with Tantra, and we talk about Shakti and Shiva, like the god and the goddess. They're two parts, like the yin and the yang. I'm sure we've all seen that. It's like the black kind of little blob that's actually a fish with a little white bit and the white with a little bit of black. That is us. We are like, you are mainly masculine, but you've got some feminine energy, and I'm mainly feminine, but I have some masculine energy. We need this to harmonize ourselves in this day and age, in such a driving, doing, success, hungry environment, humanity, society we've created. We're very disbalanced. We're very masculine the way we do things. We think we must be doing things all the time. We have checklists. We have to rush here and here. We don't achieve enough at a certain time. This is all masculine. And don't get me wrong, I have much reverence for that and I love it. And we need this side of us to get things done. But we also need to see the value in the being, in the feminine, in the creative, in the flow, in the slowing down and the enjoying, right? This is what's also missing in our life. And that's something that I feel was something that was missing in my life when I had that health scare. And many clients that I see, they're either too far in their masculine, or some of them, not very often, are too far in the feminine, not getting things done because they're changing their mind and flighty and from here to there, here to there. We need to find balance and strike that balance every single day. So that's another thing you can ask yourself is, am I driving too much? The type A personality, the must achieve, the must do this, the working 12 hours, 14 hours a day. Pulling back and honoring some you time.
Yeah.
Sometimes we even need to have like, a date for ourselves where I'm going to go to the museum today. I'm going to take myself to a movie. I'm going to sleep in. I'm going to read a book. And just, whether it's 20 minutes, maybe 5 minutes to slow down and have a cup of tea. We have to start valuing this as well, because otherwise we reach burnout. And I'm sure you've seen that with your clients. Like, it can get to adrenal fatigue. It can get to absolute exhaustion. It can get to depression, or so many different ways it can appear physically if we're not emotionally nourishing ourselves and looking at the energetics of things as well.
And I see a lot of patients who are female. Typically, my average patient's between 35 and 65 and female. I'd say majority female, but I still have a good percent of males as well. But there's a typical pattern that I see in a lot of my female patients, right? There's this type A kind of, go, go, go type of world that we all live in. And I kind of see that as women tapping into that masculine side where they're trying to go, 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 go. And then there's the inability to kind of bounce back and repair from that. And it was interesting because you kind of can talk about it in this abstract way of energy, but Dr. John Gray did a lecture and he was talking about the female hormones, progesterone, primarily estrogen. When there's lots and lots of stress in an estrogen-like environment, testosterone is the fuel that kind of helps buffer the cortisol. And I call it testosterone's like that male energy, right? And when testosterone's lower, which is obviously the case in a female environment, right? 10 times lower than a male. They don't quite
Yes.
have that recovery from the cortisol aspect. And I see that when you're saying about the male side of it, and the female side is the women kind of depleting some of that female energy by tapping too much into the male. Can you elaborate more on that? Do you see that as well from this type A world we
Yes.
live in?
Yes, and I love that you brought this up, and thank you for bringing the science into it. It's so important as well, and I totally hear you. In a simplistic way, I guess what we're saying here, because we're on the same page, I feel, is that females aren't designed to function like that. And yet, we've created a society where we have to fit into this box. That
Right.
means this is how women are supposed to act. So this is why now more than ever there's a massive calling for a shift. This is why, we've got this new feminist kind of wave happening. People are saying, even men are saying, I'm a feminist because I see the value in women. Now, this isn't about not loving men. Don't get me wrong. I have deep reverence for men. Absolutely. It's about knowing where the strengths lie and seeing that there is equality in different strengths, that we are equal, but we have differences, right? And one thing that I find is deeply important, that if we're going to, speak about women in this regard, we obviously have a cycle, right? Let's just say, an average 28-day cycle. We are very much connected to the moon, the tides, all of the above.
Yeah.
But to bring this back, we know if we break it down, like, there's 7 days in each kind of part of the cycle. If we look at this from an energetic perspective, we'll see that, ovulation is an expressive time. A woman is mainly very expressive at this time. She then goes in, to her creative phase for the next 7 days. And this is right before she's about to menstruate. And then her menstruation time, we call it moon time in my line of work. It's a reflective time. She needs to pull back. This is not the time to be driving. I'm not saying you need to have, 5 days off and that you can't do things because you have your period, not at all. But you need to know that you are in a very, introspective phase of your cycle. You need to honor that, to slow down a little bit, to not book as many appointments, to not have as many meetings, to really honor where you're at, because women, we say, are the most psychic and intuitive at this phase as well. So that should be a gift. Back ancient times, civilizations used to honor and revere women at this time. It was called the red tent. Women would gather in a space together, and those who weren't on their moon time, perhaps crones, the grandmothers who no longer are in this phase, and the young children and the men, would bring them food. They weren't asked to do chores. They weren't doing. They were being with each other, rubbing each other's bellies, plaiting each other's hair, sharing stories, passing on wisdom from the elders to the youngers. It was a very revered time. We have lost all of this because it's like, I don't have time for that. I have to do this, this, and this before 6 a.m. So we've really lost that balance, lost that harmony. But the thing is, once you come out of that reflective phase, after you've had your moon time, after your period, you are in your most dynamic phase. But you will not be your most dynamic, really getting out there, doing what you want to do, if you do not honor that reflective time. We need harmony and balance. We need day and night. We need winter and summer. Like, we know we can't function all the time. If everything was sunshine, we'd die. We couldn't function all the time if it was darkness, we'd die. And we've lost this connection, and women especially, because they feel they have to conform to something they're not. But in saying that, it's also important for the men to know that they need to have downtime too. They can't always be the ones that are striving and having to provide in some way. It's okay for them to pull back a little bit and have a bit of time off and have some downtime and have some nurturing time and to be held and seen as well. We need to instill that into our young boys and young men and men of today in the world.
Is that testosterone's a big buffer from a hormone perspective of cortisol,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
And that's the biggest thing. Men with adequate levels of testosterone, they can buffer the stress from cortisol. That's a big aspect. But the problem is we live in a very toxic world where there are lots of synthetic estrogens around us.
I'm pleased you said this.
Yeah, and that can affect a lot of the brain feedback loops that talk to the genitals to make the hormones. It can do the same for females because it can push them into estrogen dominance, which we did a big podcast on 2 weeks ago, which can cause more PMS, fibroids, endometriosis, fibrocystic breast. So there's kind of on both sides, there's this yin and the yang, like we talked about, of different imbalances. And yeah, you are totally right when it comes to the males as well. They have to make sure they're doing the right things, keeping the insulin under control, and doing all the good diet and lifestyle things regarding sleep and the breathing and the right movement. Is there anything else, let's say a female listener here can be doing maybe different than a male? Maybe we can break it up on what's better for each to kind of get their more in touch with their sexuality outside of what we already mentioned so far.
Yeah. Well, I guess besides what we just mentioned, which is knowing your cycle and honoring those, the
Yeah.
expressive, creative, reflective, dynamic,
Breathing
honoring
too.
that in itself is so important. Yes, the breathing, we've touched on that. Actually setting some time aside, and I call these sacred sessions, like scheduling lovemaking if you're in a couple,
Yeah.
but scheduling time for yourself as an individual as well. So if you have children or you have a busy schedule, this is perfect for you because you live a scheduled life, and this is the way you've constructed your life, and you're part of that system, and that's okay if this is what you choose. And if that is the case, then you need to actively get your pen in your hand and carve out, put it in, write it in pen. This is what I'm going to do for me. And maybe it's something a week, and maybe it's 1 hour a week. I like to obviously have a little bit every day, which is much nicer than just having 1 bit a week. You got to find what works for you. But I call this non-negotiable time. I wrote an article about your best threesome ever. And those 3 elements are with yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is your soul, I call that, with spirit. So something greater than you, however you connect with that, whether you believe that is God or the universe or source or whatever it is you call it. And then the third relationship is your tribe. It's with your children. It's with your beloved. It's with your community beyond that. But those first 2 relationships are non-negotiable. Non-negotiable. The first relationship is with yourself. So you might be, every single day I start my morning ritual with a cup of tea and I watch the sunrise if you're getting up that early, or whatever it is. You are not on your phone. You are not multitasking. You are not with another. It is purely you, time for you. You are nourishing yourself, your soul. And once that is done, you're ready to have a connection with something greater than you. For some people, this is in meditation, it's in prayer, it's on the yoga mat. It might be, speaking to a spiritual director. It might be going to church. However it looks, it doesn't need to look a certain way. It's just what you feel is a way you can connect. It might be, reading an excerpt from a book that you feel gives you some wisdom. It's having a connection with something that's greater than you to open up that channel so you feel you have a connection there, like a lifeline. And once you've nourished those 2, you are then a more full and a more fulfilled cup to be of greater service with your partner, with your child or children, in your community, at the office, in your space of work, however that is. But what we don't do is nourish those 2 relationships first. We always go to that third relationship, and then we wonder why we're angry, frustrated, feeling not seen, not heard, not held. And this applies for men and women. So I kind of answered it, I guess, in one go. But in that regard, we don't have to be different. We're still having a human experience. We still have to learn to take care of these elements of ourselves in whatever way looks good for us. There's no right and wrong, but you have to show up and do the work. You have to show up and do the work. No one else can do this for you. Like I said, there's no pill that can do that for you.
Right. And you mentioned something earlier, just a few minutes ago, about scheduling lovemaking. Can you go more into that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I wrote a post called Sacred Sessions. And I did this because I was seeing more and more people having a disconnect with their, I say beloved, with your partner, with your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is. In this day and age, we may be really supportive of each other. We may do little things for each other. One person buys the groceries, one, pays the bills, whatever it is, right? We support each other and we have a union, but we're neglecting the sacred sexual and the sacred spiritual, like coming together, the intimacy, the real sacred time. So I said, you have to schedule this in. If you want to invest in this, it means that not that it doesn't have to be romantic or it doesn't have to be spontaneous. It may not be conventionally spontaneous because you're going to be like, okay, Thursday evening, 6 till 9 or whatever it is, 6 till 8, it's just you and me. We've got a babysitter, or we're going to, go somewhere, or we're just going to create some time and space in our own bedroom. It's actually honoring your relationship so much that you're making it just as important, if not more important, than other things. This is what we need to know here. Because your beloved needs to know that they're important to you, and you need to demonstrate that with action. Some people like the words on top of it. They like a gift on top of it. They like some service on top of it. We may have heard of the love languages. This exists too.
Yeah.
And whether this is time where you actually make love, or however that looks to you, or whether it's just being together and snuggling and having a shower together. I've written a list, which I'm going to publish soon, about different ideas of how you can use this time. And you can be really playful, and you can experiment with different, sexual practices that you may not have explored before. And whether it's role playing or give each other massages, it can be anything that you both consensually agree to and want to explore together, and holding that space for each other. There's no judgment here. There's none of that. This is a really beautiful space to get really intimate with your beloved and not let it be superseded by something else unless I say there's a serious extreme. If someone's really unwell or something drastic's happened, we have to understand life happens. Other than that, this is non-negotiable. Non-negotiable. And it needs to be scheduled at least, once a week or once a fortnight, depending on how your relationship's set up.
That's great. That's awesome. Well, is there any way listeners here can get a hold of you outside of your website? Is there anything else you want to share? Any books or any other opt-ins or video series coming your way?
There's a free video series on my website.
Oh, great.
It's mainly targeted at ladies, but guys could definitely get some value out of it. As soon as you click on stellamuse.com, and that's Stella with an A, as you said, at the very top, there's an opt-in there for a 4-part video series, and it touches on your sacred sexual space. We call it the yoni, which means literally your entire female genital area, the yoni, the heart, the mind, and how this needs to be in sync for a woman to be fully in her most empowered space. So that video series is easily accessible. And then at the bottom of my website, there's a free ebook, which is like a blueprint for your life purpose. And it's one that you can just print off and work through. It's definitely for men, for women at any stage of life. Great, especially if you're at a turning point and you want some guidance along the way. Other than that, you can head over to any of my social media links. There's plenty of videos and lots of articles that are very practical, and you can get some ideas that you can implement today. And if you feel I can be of service, then contact Paige, send me an email and let me know specifically how you feel I can assist.
Excellent. Well, before I go into my last question, is there anything else that's on the tip of your kind of tongue or on top of your head that you wanted to really put out there to the listeners?
The most important thing is to honor your integrity and truth. Out of everything we've spoken about here, it really has to resonate with you. There's no right and wrong, but you have to carve out that time, a bit of space, a bit of stillness to start listening to what your body, your heart, your soul, your mind, your genitals is saying to you, because our bodies talk to us all the time. We know when we're tired. We know when we're hungry. We know when we're thirsty. It speaks to us in other ways as well, and we don't often slow down enough to listen. So I urge all our listeners now to take that time to connect with themselves and find out what they need. And one simple way, if you're not sure how to do this, I love putting one hand on the heart, one hand on the belly, like we've already discussed, the exact same pose, and just slow down, do some of that belly breathing, and then ask, what do you need me to know right now? What do you need me to know right now? And without judgment, just let whatever answer comes to you come to you in whatever way. And if you get nothing, that's okay. Be open to an answer coming to you that night in your dreams, seeing a sign, hearing a song on the radio. An answer will come to you because you've opened up that line of communication. So be patient and come from a place of loving kindness and compassion for yourself.
Well, you've inspired me to do a really good breathing session after this podcast. So thanks for that.
Right. You're welcome, Dr. J.
Awesome. Well, last question for you. I typically end this podcast with every question for all the different guests here. But if you were on a desert island, what would be the one supplement or herb that you'd want to take with yourself?
Oh, that is so tricky because I'm such a herb person.
Could be anything.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe I say oregano. I know you guys say oregano.
Yeah.
I'd probably take that because it's so multi-purposeful and multi-useful, being an antibacterial and antifungal. And saying that you could probably take, a little bit every day. I'm gathering I've got clean water on this island. Take a little bit every day to keep my immune system strong as well and make me feel, as healthy as I guess I can be with only one herb.
I love it. Well, I've gone to Mexico a few times and gotten parasite infections, and I brought it with myself, and it's totally knocked it out. So I love it. There you go. Very cool. All right.
Thank you.
Elise, great chatting with you. StellaMuse.com, and look forward to having you back soon.
Thank you so much, Dr. J. You have a wonderful rest of your day. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you.
Thanks. You as well, Elise.
Got a question for Dr. J? Go to BeyondWellnessRadio.com and click the questions button. Then tune in to hear the answer. Also, if you like the show, click below to review us on iTunes. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to BeyondWellnessRadio.com.